know, dude. Mahin, I don't think we should.
All right, we are live.
Shut up. Are we live?
We are live.
Are you able to check comments on there? Why'd you keep it closer so you can read the comments?
No, Sim's going to be on his Facebook. So anyways, and we're recording here too, so.
Oh, Sim, you're going to be able to read the questions from there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So get on it.
You want to get 5 seconds of silence?
All right. All right. Good.
All right. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. I'm Mahin. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Shaykh, Amir, Saeed, and Sim. And on today's show, we want to offer a quick commentary on a recent podcast we put out. Kind of get the guys' perspective on things. A show that released this past week called Goodbye to Romance with Coach Megan Wyatt from wivesofjannah.com. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to check out. I know you guys weren't on it. I was on the show with Summer, Noreen, and Sister Megan. And that show has actually offered us a lot of commentary as far as Facebook. I don't know if you've seen some of the comments coming through yet.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the show? I don't know if you had a chance to... I know you edited it, so you listened to it.
A lot of thoughts. Okay. There's the whole side of the sisters who really are passionate about, abusive men. Men are jerks in many relationships, and I totally get that, but I think there was a perspective missing in the episode where I think a lot of guys would say that you're kind of you're kind of attacking someone that's not them. They're not the porn addict. They're not the people who are struggling with their spouse in the bedroom, And I think a lot of guys took exception to that as being kind of, you watch too much porn and you have high expectations of your wife, and hence, I think a lot of guys just want to say that we have some issues with our wives, and we want to be able to let them know that, hey, we have a very high sexual drive, and you need to keep up with us, and you need to figure out some way that you can bring your sex drive up to ours, or maybe we can find a happy medium where we both can be happy.
Right. I think so. There's a couple. I want to run through some of the points that were made in that show. Obviously, on that show, I try to push back as much as I can, but I think we were limited for time. She was on a tight schedule. I'm on a show I'm the only male representative on a panel of 3 sisters. But number one comment I remember she made was the idea that guys our primary objective in marriage, we get married because we want to have sex. And she didn't like that. I mean, she's like, that's a problem for her. But that, whether or not it's a problem for anybody, doesn't take away from the reality in my mind. I think it's, we're talking to younger guys, right, who are like single still, and they're like 20, 21 years old, and they're like, brothers, I want to get married, and, but because to avoid the fitna. So what does that even mean, right? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that kind of points the reality of of how guys we operate. So that's point number one. Point number one was that she doesn't like the idea of that's how guys operate. I mean, if we want a companionship as our number one thing, why would we get married? I would just hang out with you guys, right? There's no other.
Well, there is a difference between male companionship and female companionship, right? I'll give you an example. And I'm not saying...
first of all, I think a lot of guys and girls who are in relationships would disagree with you on that last point you just made. I think there's a lot of guys who have a perfectly healthy relationship with their wife. Their wife is their best friend, and they love their wife in every manner possible, but and I think they're still struggling in the bedroom. I think that's an important point to consider. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of guys who, the wife is not their best friend. Their best friends are people who are outside, and they're not part of their immediate family. And I think we gotta kind of be careful in terms of how we're kind of just using our own firsthand experience and kind of labeling guys as, oh, well, she's not my best friend. If it wasn't for sex, I wouldn't marry her at all.
But I think that's a good point. That's a good
But I think the whole best friend thing has to be clarified too. Psychologists and relationship psychologists talk about how men are able to have friends and a completely different compartment for their wives as their spouse. Women, on the other hand, are different. They want their husband to be their best friend, right? And then they have their girls that are their best friends, right? So even for men, like, we're able to compartmentalize generally that we have our best friends and then we have our wife, right? Who we love and all that good stuff, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is that there's a big difference between female companionship and your male compatriots, right? When you hang out with your friends, it's a whole different type of environment. You talk about things differently. When you're with your wife, sometimes the stuff you talk about with your wife, you would never want to know. You wouldn't want your boys to know that you talk about this stuff because you may seem too soft or whatever the case may be, right? I'll tell you an example of that. I can never watch animated movies with you guys, but with my wife, when I first got married, it was the funnest thing in the world. I never used to watch Anastasia if I was on my own or with my friends, but with your wife, it's so fun, right? It's a completely different dynamic, I think. I think that there's reasons for men temporarily not being into their wives sexually. It doesn't mean they don't love their wives less, right? It can be a lot of stress. It can be just physical exhaustion. It could be tons of stuff.
So like I'm glad you mentioned, because that's one of her other points that Megan was making on the show. That a lot of her clientele, like female clientele, one of their larger complaints is that their husbands aren't quote unquote putting out, so to speak, right? And I remember my reaction was I was like, what? Like, I don't believe it.
Look, there's a lot of guys who aren't going to put out. When they first get married, their sex drive is great, and then over the years they end up getting fat and lazy, and they can't keep up, and they get back to football games, and
there's a lot more excitement for them in football games and UFC fights.
Yeah, sure, but I think a lot of guys took exception to Megan in the sense that they're saying that she's in her own echo chamber, and that it's her perspective is skewed because she's only hearing from a lot of sisters.
She's saying that she hears from guys too.
Yeah, I mean, but majority of her clientele will be sisters, right? Mm-hmm. She's a girl. She's her main audience is female. It's going to be very likely that majority of her people, a lot of the people who contact her for therapy or whatever, talk to her about female issues. And I think it would be interesting if we end up getting someone who's a male therapist, someone who's specializes in helping out guys regarding this issue, and see what he has to say about it.
But and that person has to be very nonpartisan. What I mean by that is, when I used to do some faith-based counseling and escalate it to, everything that wasn't faith-based counseling, I have to escalate it to other people. One dilemma I see in the therapy industry, especially marriage therapy and whatever you want, relationship therapy and counseling, is that it's very skewed at times for the woman herself. I'll give you an example. A woman could say, just like all other men, or men are lazy. A man can't say that. Even in the presence of a therapist, I'd be like, all women are lazy, or this female toxicity, whatever you want to call it, or feminine toxicity. You can't say that. Even if it's a male, it's like, this is anti-feminist, But a female can do that all she wants in a therapy session.
Yeah.
A male can't do that.
It's a good old boys club.
Yeah. And exactly. And so a man can't even, if that's on his mind, he can't demean women if that's a part of his therapy, because that means he needs therapy, right? But he's not even allowed to say that. Yeah. And a woman can say it all she wants, from what I understand, in a therapy session. She'll go, all men are the same, they're slobs, they're pigs, or they're only about sex, or whatever the case is. A man can't even say that about a woman, even if he's in a confidential, closed room and talking to a therapist.
And that's because you're saying that because there's a bias in that profession towards females.
It's not even that profession. It's just the age that we live in, right? It's everywhere. That you can't really say anything against women.
I think you just brought up an important point. Is there a bias in the therapy field towards women? I think a lot of people are wondering that when you hear about a lot of therapists and their circles, it's a big echo chamber of leftist points where the woman is in a lower position of power, so she should always be deferred to in terms of any type of disagreement. Let the woman kind of don't want to say win the argument, but, you know, have the edge over the man in the counseling session.
And I think that's by design too. There was a few therapists, I'm not going to mention their names. Some of them may be in Chicagoland area and some of them abroad, or just domestic in the United States. One keen on a business level to keep the clients is to adhere to the individual, like the woman herself, and the traits that a woman may possess.
Yeah.
Is that if you keep the woman coming back,
yeah,
then it's going to be much more fruitful, you know. And if you adhere to the fitra of a woman, it'll be a lot easier to keep people coming in. It's better for business. Now, I heard people say this. I'm not a specialist in this. This is something I heard, that some therapists say that, hey, man, sometimes you just have to listen to the woman more because she's going to be the driving force of them coming back. Like, men really don't even want to go for help. We know that about men, right? It's something in our DNA. Even when we have something wrong with us, if something's sick with us physically, we delay it and delay it until it's too late. Hey, Same thing with the emotional thing.
Can you fix the camera so that they can't see Shaykh?
Oh, that's fine. They don't have to see me. They're not missing out on anything.
So right here?
No, to the middle.
Yeah, to the middle.
There we go.
Oh, right. Now they can't see Sim.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'm not that important. I'll just move in closer.
Yes,
All right.
yes. How's that? You know, so, yeah, that's all I gotta say.
You know, the other point was the blaming of porn consumption as the primary need that... So, here's the context, right? I asked her... Now, this is a very theoretical question because I personally didn't ask this to my wife when I was getting married. I think it would be highly unusual for someone to ask, right? But I asked a question like, is it a... You know, what's wrong, though, with a prospective, like, fiance asking another their fiance, like, would you be open to, like, oral sex, right? Just to get their mindset, like, and the comeback was, well, they've never done anything. How could they know? I'm like, and then we were talking to some guys. I remember we were talking in another like WhatsApp group with some brothers, and they were like, and they were giving us feedback too about the episode. They were like, listen, I mean, they act like they never thought about it, like the girls, like women. The reality is that they have thought of it. I don't know, like. I don't know if women will own up to that. Yeah. In some ways, they kind of did. Like, some of the commentary on Facebook did suggest that women want to have sex just as much as guys. Yeah. So if they want to, if they're going into the marriage with that mindset, then they're clearly thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, all three of us in this room are fathers. And if there's a guy who wants to talk to my daughter about sex before, like, in the initial stages of courtship, man, I'm gonna punch his teeth in. he'll be choking on his teeth.
No, it is. I think it is very inappropriate. I'll tell you why. Inappropriate on the level of too premature of a question, because partners don't even know each other sexually, at least after the first 3 months properly, when they're done like impressing each other. You know what I'm saying? So
you mean 3 months of marriage or 3 months
of marriage? Of marriage.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're still kind of trying to impress each other. They're still in that honeymoon phase, and they're still kind of concerned about how they look and how they feel and how they smell in front of their spouse and all that stuff. So I think it's not even a point bringing it up, because it's something that comes from left field, and I think it is inappropriate, to be honest with you. Now, is it Islamically allowed? That's a whole different question, right? The second thing is that we know that men and women have sex for two different reasons. For women, it's more emotional and compassion. It's not as visual. Men are a lot more visual. And it's more about the immediate satisfaction, right? And to make that comparison, I think it may be a little unfair. The reason why is that we both have sexual intercourse for two different reasons. But the end goal is the same, as procreation. You understand what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, yeah. By the way, I just heard something kick on, like, recording was just got better.
Well, I just want to say, a lot of people are hopping on Facebook. If you guys have questions, just throw it in the comments field where we got our phones in front of us, so we can respond to anything that's on your mind. If you have, complaints, want to yell at us, just don't swear, or else we'll have to...
Yeah, and any general questions that you guys just have or concerns, right? Why not just bring it up? How's that?
Yeah, so I was going to say something the point of asking the question, though, like, why it's positive theoretically is, like, how do you ensure that your spouse you're not marrying a prude, whether you're a guy or a girl.
Well, I don't think answering that question is going to be a litmus test if she's a prude or.
Well, it probably doesn't. But I'm like, that's a concern. Between the three of us, we have like 35 years plus of marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of I would like some people like.
I guarantee you, the vast majority of couples will say for the first year to, let's just say even 5 years, they'll have great sex. Okay, they'll have headboard smashing sex. Okay, it'll be great. But that question does not answer the future. 5 years later, everything can kind of go to hell. And you asking that question wouldn't have made a difference. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're trying to measure an unknown by asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't measure. You can't. There's going to be things that happen throughout a relationship that you're just going to have to work through. It's not like math. Human beings aren't binary where, everything can be figured out by asking the right questions and you'll make the most informed decision by asking every single thing possible. Now, I will say to the brothers who are wanting to ask these type of questions, I would say as a father, if you were promised to her, if my daughter was promised to you, and you had a very healthy relationship, where you're kind of having conversations on the phone, and maybe if she's comfortable with that, maybe there might be some room where you could ask questions related to sex, I mean, in the best etiquette possible, and it's different with each person. I can't say like every girl would like that or most girls will behave in a certain manner. It's just a variable that they're playing with, and they better be careful too, because she could call it quits.
Would you be comfortable if your like prospective son-in-law just talked to you first, if that was a concern of his? I would
respect him as a man if he told me like, hey, I have certain questions that are related to sex in nature, and I wanted your permission to talk to her about it. I'm like, yeah, that would be great. Like, that shows me that the guy has some fear of God in him.
Right.
That he has that capability to come to me, and he's demonstrating some cojones, that he's got manliness in him, that he can come up to me and ask me, with proper manners and etiquette that, hey, I have these questions. I'd like them answered, and I'd like your advice on how to best approach it, because I am her guardian. Like, this is my baby.
Yeah.
You're not gonna come and ask her like disgusting questions just like that,
Yeah.
We got a comment coming in.
All right. Who's got some questions? Siraj has a question. Sheikh Amir said, "I love him." Okay, no, he's just commenting. Okay. I'm trying to read as fast as I can. Okay. A lot of commenting. Okay,
This comment.
Appreciate your thoughts, Siraj. Much love from the Mad Mamluks.
No questions yet, though. So the porn consumption issue, right, was something that came up too, right? Where I was telling her about the first time I saw porn was like 3rd grade, and she was like, "What's the difference between consumption and exposure and addiction?" I mean, I can make sense of that, but then the reality is that would you agree that porn consumption has kind of affected about what we're seeing? And porn doesn't necessarily have to be like porn, like straight up, like, I
don't think that. I think for guys and girls, we live in a very visual world. Everything's measured on looks, attractiveness. Girls at the office, whether they're the most conservative girls wearing jilbab or mini skirts, it doesn't matter. If they look attractive, if they put on some makeup, they'll end up getting the best treatment. And the same thing goes with guys. Guys who are dressed shabbily and not, wearing proper work attire, they won't get the right treatment. It's all about smiles and handshakes, and so I think if you just go outside and drive on the highway, you'll see a million billboards with beautiful people, men and women, both. We're in a very highly very sexualized and visual world. It doesn't have to be porn.
Right, but I was saying that also
even the
mentioning
indoctrination.
that,
I think it'll lead to that, but the indoctrination, right? one example that I give people sometimes is this, and I'm not saying that this is real. This is just theoretical. That if you have a nation of people that grew up around people that adhere to Islamic clothing, especially for women, right? It's gonna be and they are not exposed to anything else. They're gonna appreciate a woman in a different way than people in the West would appreciate a woman, right?
Dude,
Appreciation for women. Standards change completely.
When I got married, I had a size 32 waist, okay? It's not six-pack abs, but it was very, I was very slender and slim, And my wife, said, when you took off your shirt first, you kind of, I just saw a little flabbiness. I'm like, what?
For you, it was a huge accomplishment.
I was like, what? I worked out so hard for this, and she told me years down the line. She didn't say,
right then.
that night, but... completely kill my confidence, But it works both ways. Girls like very, a manly body. They want muscles, and they don't want to see a gut on their first night. I mean, and maybe some girls do. Some couples do. Maybe a couple who maybe both of them are pretty fat and chubby. Maybe that's their thing.
Yeah,
that's their
thing.
Hey, no, there's a lot of people who it doesn't matter to them.
No, it doesn't.
I know. I have friends who are both the couples are fat, and they have they click on a level that is way beyond superficial looks and things like that.
Sure.
I mean, they like one of them said to me she's my best friend. She could look like anything to me, and we just have this connection where we'd never get into arguments and things like that. And I thought that was kind of cool, man. It was they don't even look at each other in a superficial manner.
I see.
Yeah.
What advice would you guys have for so a lot of times guys who are in their early 20s are talking to us and they're talking about I gotta get married, bro. There's so much fitna out here. Obviously what they're saying is if I have a wife that I can go home and smash, then that will alleviate this concern. And I remember when I was single, an older guy told me, an older uncle, brother figure told me, getting married ain't gonna help fix you, the issue of fitna. It might for a couple years, what Sim was alluding to, your honeymoon phase when you're just going nuts. But then, as time goes on, you're gonna, have to deal with that again. So what advice would you guys have? You guys have more experience. I have 9 years in the game. You've 16?
Yeah.
And you got 11. So what advice would you guys have for those kind of youth, those shabab?
Seniority goes first.
No, you go first, man.
No, I there's a lot of things, man, that you can mention, but I'll mention a few things. Is that one misconception we have is people think that fitna is only in our time, right? Which is not very true, because at the time of even the tabi'in, they felt that they were living in a time of fitna too, right? We're accustomed and acclimated to this type of fitna, so it's almost normal for us. We were born into it, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that your meaningful relationship with your spouse is what's going to help you through your fitna and take the edge off any type of fitna. What that individual, I don't know who it was, that said that, you think it's going to solve all your problems. No, marriage is not going to solve all your problems. It'll help you not fall into zina, right? It'll protect you from zina. But for a majority of people, it is an ongoing struggle to not fall into haram, meaning that it's constantly whispering at them, hey, you got to protect yourself. You got to protect yourself in your chastity. That's always going to be there. That's never going to go away for men and for women, right? But one thing is that, and I'm a firm believer in this, your relationship with your creator, and hear me out, your relationship with your creator is going to be the determining factor how your limbs are going to behave on the street, right? And that being, number one, obviously, we could get into the whole sicknesses of the heart and all that stuff, but if you want to talk about it in contemporary terminology, it has to do with concepts, because our concepts control our behavior, right? So if you have a certain concept and you understand that this is just a type of deception, it's platinum curtains, it doesn't have any type of benefit for you, and you have to be mature enough to understand that. I think it's that mindset.
I think that's amazing what you just said. Look, after 16 years of marriage, there's going to be ups and downs, and it's like a roller coaster. There's going to be just everything is going to be thrown at you and your relationship with your wife. Temptations, people from work hitting on you. There's going to be the beautiful girl next door. There's going to be all kinds of things that are coming from you from every different angle, and it'll happen. It'll happen when you least expect it, right? And you're not ready for it. And you have to prepare your mind to deal with who you have, your family, your children. You have to realize, like, you sacrificing your marriage and putting your marriage in jeopardy for just the quick fix of sex, and throwing away your marriage and possibly leading to a divorce, and broken families, kids without a father. These are, like, you got to think through what you're doing, and that's what I think each one of us needs to do. You have to realize, like, hey, this is something that our scripture and all of our teachers have been teaching us for a long time, and it's kind of making sense to us now because we're kind of in these difficult situations where you're being tempted by all these different things in life, and you have to realize, like, okay, what means the most to me right now? And when you retool these ideas in your mind and kind of figure out, like, your priorities, you'll be able to navigate some of these turbulent times in your life better. Yeah, you'll have issues with your wife, and you'll have great times with your wife as well, but when you have those bad times, you have to be able to navigate those waters and be able to get the help you need. If you can't sort it out, talk to somebody who can. Maybe it might not be Megan, maybe it might be a man who, a male therapist. We got Kareem Sirajuddin from California, who's a great therapist as well, life coach. You might want to talk to him. I mean, we talked to so many guys over this past week, and a lot of guys are frustrated. I get it. I've been there. Each one of us has been there. There's no one can say that they're above it. Their marriage is perfect. They're the true qawwam or whatever. It's all garbage. No. This is something that gets thrown in every guy's face. Be the true qawwam, man up. Get out of here. You don't know anything about how to be a man. Like, you're just talking about stuff that's completely abstract to you, and you're throwing...
It's the feminist narrative, what a man should be.
Well, you're throwing a religious term at somebody, like, you have no idea what men feel inside them. There's like a raging bull that's ready to, attack any woman at any moment. It's not that crazy. I'm kind of exaggerating, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Retool your mind. I mean, this is for everything in life. It's not just marriage. You're going to realize, like, all these different things that you want in your life. You'll see people, friends who are succeeding in their careers faster than you, making an exorbitant amount of money. And then you're going to see, like, hey, where the hell am I? And why am I not making that? And you're going to be comparing yourself to that. And you're going to be comparing your wife to other people's wives, and your car to other people's cars. And this is like a cycle. You will never be satisfied with anything. And this is something that's a disease of the modern world. Never being content with anything that you have, and never being pacified. Even if you have, like, sex once a week or whatever, you're like, no, I want it more. That's a problem with all of us, man. We want it. We want everything more. We want our desires maxed out. We want it pacified. Yeah. To its maximum extent.
Some of us want sneakers more and more. They just can't be satisfied.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying. It doesn't just have to do with bedroom relations. It's about everything.
It's about everything, man.
Anything that causes the individual pleasure, they just want more, right?
Everyone, send some questions. Hate, whatever.
Hate, whatever.
Yeah.
Y'all
y'all can hate us if you want, but I'm just trying to talk about things not from a male's perspective or a female's perspective. I'm trying to talk about things that are happening to humanity at large. We're in a world where we want to be satisfied with everything to its maximum potential, and it just can't happen. You're just not going to happen. It's you're measuring human beings by by what you see on TV, by artificial worlds, and you're seeing some people's lives. You'll see like people on Instagram. You see a lot of these Instagram couples. They look like hipster couples. They look. The wife looks fantastic, like a 10 out of 10. The guy looks like the ultimate, hipster. He's got 10 out of 10, perfect beard, very lined up and everything, and you're measuring yourself against these people, and you're like, man, they must be having the best sex of their life, and they're so happy, and they're like Instagramming, and they look great, and they're young, and when we're not in their world. You're only seeing a snapshot, a 30-second world of theirs, and you're thinking, holy cow, this is who I should be and who my wife should be. I got stuck with I got desperate, and I married the first girl that agreed to marry me. I shouldn't have done that. Well, you're really measuring yourself against something that's not real.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of that, I actually knew of an Instagram power couple. They were Instagram game was on point, and then they ended up getting their marriage lasts 2 years.
Well, and that's another problem too. When you go on the social media world too much with your couple, and this is something that I'm kind of worried about. Just my wife coming on the podcast more often. Like sometimes people aren't happy for your marriage. They just there's a lot of people who favor it and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. There's people who are happy with you too, but there's a sizable percentage of people who are giving you hardcore nuzzer. Yeah. So you got to be careful about that too.
I was gonna
like flaunting your relationship.
Right.
In the world, you got to be really careful.
That's why we got a hashtag no nuzzer and then hashtag say mashallah.
Yeah, no one's going to say mashallah when they're really jealous of you, man.
I was going to say, there was a comment, your wife posted a comment about how women are trying to, and I'll comment on the thread when I get a chance to, just so she can respond to me. But she was talking about how women strive to become wives of Jannah, but husbands don't strive to become husbands of Jannah. And it's kind of biased for a girl to say that. But secondly, a true wife of Jannah wouldn't care how her husband was treating her, right? I mean, there would be if you think about it, they wouldn't be nitpicking everything. You can't be a wife of Jannah if you're nitpicking your husband for trivial BS.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a perception on the Megan podcast that we talked about how guys are forcing their wives to have sex with them. I would say that's highly unusual. I mean, maybe that's there might be pockets of guys who are abusing that right, but most guys, because, we're not monsters here, are just trying to, if their wife doesn't want to have sex, they won't do it. And that's why guys are just going through, they always complain about dry spells.
Right.
Right?
And I think it's important that we mention that this is not saying that it doesn't happen. For sure, there's the guys who force their wives to do stuff that they're not comfortable doing. And we're not denying that at all, but we're talking about the majority, okay? We can't be talking about outliers, and we'll be blue in the face if we just spend all of our time talking about outliers in our society. But we're here to address issues that majority of us are experiencing. Normal guys who work, the 9-to-5 jobs, or not normal guys and girls who are working 9-to-5 jobs and trying to make their relationship work. And, attacking the outliers is being disingenuous to the relationship or to the discussion, because everyone can talk about the worst in a guy or a girl and then just spend all their time on that.
I'm just looking at the comments here. Naeem, we actually had the sister side of it on the Megan podcast. That's why we're having the guys on here right now. Also, I want to talk about real quick about sometimes when you have the same gender and the different gender in the same show, sometimes the dynamics, people aren't upfront. Women, if you give them their own platform, they've gotten their voice out. If Shaykh Amir, for example, he has to maintain the decorum of our Shaykh in residence. He can't necessarily engage with a sister on the same platform just because of the nature of the community. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. And therefore, we can't really sometimes have the same platform. So I think we've done a fair job. Sim has done a really good job, I think, of presenting the sister side of things, and we've kind of reiterated what Megan's points were, and then talked about some of the comments. So I think that's kind of where we're at. So second comment here: mutual communication is important in the subject. Actually varies individual to individual. We cannot speak generally. I mean, that's kind of what Sim just said. That we always speak in. At the end of the day, we can't just go on and small little anecdotes, right? This is a general concept, and we've tried to touch upon little outliers here and there. I think that was pretty much it. Was there anything else on the show that we didn't cover?
No. What about the trip? Are we going to talk about that? Or?
Oh, yeah, we did a Safina Society trip to New Jersey. I don't know if all you guys know about Dr. Shadi Al-Masri, but his podcast is the Safina Society. They invited us to New Jersey, and we went and had a wonderful trip with them. And
wonderful, mashallah.
Yeah, we got to see New York a little bit, and we went back to Jersey and hung out with those guys, and they were amazing hosts and everything. But I don't know what were your thoughts on that experience, Mahin?
That was fun. I mean, going in the extra day to go see New York City. Special shout out to Imam Sohaib Webb.
Yes.
Mashallah, he
the man,
a true gentleman.
Very much. So.
For some of our listeners who don't like him, we don't care. I don't care. If you don't like him, I don't care. Like seriously, like you know, like I don't know, like you want to be triggered by us being friends with him. Sure.
We have people on our show that we all disagree. Each one of us in this room disagree with the guests that we have.
We disagree with each other on a lot of things. Yeah, we still love each other.
Yeah, I mean, look,
jeez.
There's literally nothing that should break the bonds of brotherhood, other than something that is kufr. You know, I mean, this is something that's a big problem.
Even
then,
even if your brother is, spewing some stuff that has to do with kufr, you go and you give them nasiha because you still love them.
Yeah.
Right? There's a whole process.
And especially...
And I'm not talking about Imam Sohaib Webb. I'm not talking about him. I'm just talking about generally with any of your brothers and sisters, right?
Well, and even I understand where a lot of the listeners are coming from. They have to meet the guy. And I think that's something that's really important, that, when you sit down with someone and you really understand where they're coming from, you understand that person is pure love, and that's what that guy is.
Especially with him. People don't do you guys understand what I meant by that? Yeah. Like, if you guys knew him in Egypt, this guy just always looking out for you. Like, he'll do anything to look out for you. He'll go out of his way to build connections for you. But it's just horrible that we have to make that huge explanation while we're talking about our trip. But anyways, what else, dude?
Sister Zainab had a question.
Her comments on... I agree with Zainab. If the dude is, like, freaking morbidly obese and letting themselves go, and then he has to fix himself. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, totally.
That goes beyond saying. I mean, if some fat dude, like the guys who we talk internally about guys, right? And sometimes we have guys who are out of shape complaining about their wives not putting out, and we tell them
I think that's double issue. I'm not saying that it's okay. But that's a part of the spouses. They should have a relationship with saying, okay, you know what, maybe we should start losing weight and stuff like that. If you just let them go, because what happens sometimes with guys and with girls, they get very comfortable with each other. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. I've been married for so long.
And then all of a sudden, one of them starts caring about their look.
By the way, 40-year-old brothers are uncles. That's what I was telling somebody. We actually are uncles now.
We're not uncles, man. Maybe you call yourself an uncle.
You call yourself an uncle.
I'm not a goddamn uncle.
Dude, you're
sorry.
But back to the Sheikh Sohaib, by the way, treated us to honest chops. That was probably the best Sabiha burger I've had in my life.
Yeah,
I've eaten both sides of it.
Yeah, I mean that's an all around good burger.
And the fries. What about the fries? The steak fries, the
truffle fries,
truffle fries, Parmesan cheese drizzle all over it.
Tell the listeners what that restaurant was again.
It's Burgers by Honest Chops. It's owned by Khalid Latif, who's the chaplain at NYU.
That's actually owned by Khalid Latif?
I think he's a co-owner or something.
Yeah, so it's right by NYU, Greenwich Village area, so make sure you check it out if you ever go to New York. What else? But what else as far as meeting Safina, how was
those guys? We met up with brother Alex, Alex Lajos. He was the guy that picked us up Saturday morning.
Allah bless him. Awesome brother. Everyone do dua for him, man. Awesome brother.
And then we got to meet Mahin. I actually met Mahin before. I met him in Philadelphia. And then meeting we met Dr. Shadi before, but we just clicked. Yeah, I just felt like
I kind of felt like we were the Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, they're so polished and they're so well spoken and everything.
Right.
They got their their game on point, and sometimes I felt like, man, I hope these guys don't regret inviting us.
I think it happens to us with being guests too. We're out of our natural habitat. We had to go to them, but I mean, I think we can have a whole podcast about this because I have a lot to say about that trip. Dude, starting from the travel itself before we met them, I think that every team, every major group or entity has to have team building, right? I think for us, I don't mean to get all mushy with you guys, you know what I'm saying? But I think it was really awesome that us as a unit traveled together.
Yeah.
Because we have an initiative of the Mad Mamluks together, and we got a chance to just get so much more comfortable with each other. We were all three of us in the same hotel room. We all had 3 separate sleeping areas, alhamdulillah. But it was really, really cool. We were able to wake up and pray Fajr together and do a whole bunch of stuff together, go travel together. One of the best ways to know people is to travel with them or do business with them, right? So we were traveling. Then when we met the guys from Safina Society, these guys were just true gentlemen, very awesome, very humble at the same time, very humble. There's one thing that resonated with me very well with Mahin said. I was talking to them after we had after we did the podcast, and he said, "Man, we just have to have more ghira for Islam." Something about that phrase that he said has made me love him so much, dude. Because I love that. And New York style pizza, ladies and gentlemen, born and raised in the burbs of Chicago, but I think I have a confession to make. I think the New York style pizza is better than Chicago style pizza.
New York all around is a lot more fun than Chicago, but look,
no, the pizza
itself.
I couldn't stay in New York for more than 3 days. It's too happening for me, bro. I'm a suburban boy.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have great pizza.
Yeah,
I mean, we had that pizza. We had that pizza.
But something about that pizza.
Remember they said the dough? It's the water of New York City.
The dough is
that
just
affects
so
their dough.
nice. The perfect type of.
So you can't replicate it. For some reason.
And garbage. That's what the New Yorkers say. You can totally replicate.
I mean, I haven't had a place like. So the place I took you guys, Benedictino's, Samir took me there. Samir from Samir's Eat. Shout out to Samir. So Benedictino's is probably not even the best New York style. Like the famous one is Joe's. We didn't get to go to Manhattan because it was like raining cats and dogs that night. So we just stayed in Jersey with Hoboken. Benedictino's. That pizza was like on 2 plates.
It's on 2 plates.
And then we went to Al Basha. Al Basha showed us mad love. That owner was awesome.
Al Basha, yes.
Patterson.
That was awesome.
You know, that hummus with
that was the best hummus I've ever had in my life.
The hummus with the lamb shoulder.
Lamb, little tiny pieces of lamb.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
And then my boy Sofiane came through to meet us. We met him some Saturday night.
Shout out to Sofiane.
So those of you guys who know Sofiane, I got told you got remember.
We got Sim beat himself. Sim was mashallah.
First, give some background.
No, let me give some background. Okay, Sim has a very specific. I don't want to give a secret away, but just to tap with it a little, he has a certain way of joking around, right? So. Sofiane comes in one of the days. Sofiane al-Andalusi. Why don't you
So Sofiane al-Andalusi is a friend of mine who I met in Columbus, Ohio a couple years ago. He is a Portuguese convert to Islam. He's been Muslim about 13 years. Became Muslim in prison, and learned like a lot of the various texts of the Maliki madhab from the Shaykh of the Kitanis.
He's a major reader. He loves books.
He's essentially a sheikh.
Yeah, basically, right? He knows Arabic, fluent in Arabic. He's in his early 30s. And he's very humble. So I'm not gonna praise him too much here because he won't.
If you saw him on the street, you would never think he was a shit.
Yeah, and so he's like a very learned individual.
When he's talking to people, very soft in his tone, very respectful. Doesn't look at you, kind of looks down. Remember when we met Sheikh Shadi al-Masri? He was just talking to him in a very low voice,
right?
And then he just kind of got comfortable with us,
right? So, anyways, Sim. So we're in Dr.
By the way, Sim had some of the highlights of this trip, and I'll tell you why. But these are one of them.
We're downstairs and we're about to record a video session / audio with.
Put that camera in Sim's face so that everyone can see the faces that he's.
No. Don't. Just leave it alone.
With Dr. Shadi and Alex on Sunday morning, and so I just wanted Sofiane to meet these brothers, because Alex is also Maliki. So this is Dr. Shadi. They're both Maliki. So anyways, and Sim the subtle jokes went away, by the way, but it's not a side note. So we're downstairs in Dr. Shadi's basement and. Sim is introducing Sofiane to Alex and Dr. Shad. He's like, "Oh, this is mashallah, this is our Shaykh. Sofiane. He's been Muslim for 12, 13 years. Mashallah, he's done so much. And we haven't done it in a lifetime."
And by the way, when Sim is starting to do this, his eyes open up, his mouth starts drooping, because this is where he's being serious and joking at the same time. But the people like Dr. Shadi, they have no idea that Sim's joking. We know he's joking.
And so he's like, "Mashallah, he has ijazah in Islam." And that's a Shaykh. And then Dr. Shadi and Alex. they're like nodding, they're smiling, they're like,
They're like,
okay.
oh, these buffoons, what are we doing inviting them?
And then like, but they couldn't figure it out. I think it was like Shaykh.
They didn't
Amir
figure it
and I-
out. Only you and me. You started figuring it out during this trip because we're traveling with him.
Yeah.
But before that, maybe a few days before we traveled, you started realizing how Sim jokes around like
Yeah.
fully.
Right. Yeah.
Because even sometimes he still catches you off guard.
Right.
For me, it doesn't work. I know, right?
Well, when you meet Dr. Shadi, he's very like, you know, he's got like a straight backbone. You know,
Yeah.
he seems like somebody who doesn't mess around.
He's
Right.
a go-getter.
And I love those guys. Those guys are the ones that I like to, you know, mess with.
He doesn't
And
sugarcoat.
I want to see them laugh and giggle and just act like a complete goofball. That's what me and Amir would sit down with our Shaykh, you know, and we would have some halaqat, right? And Amir would keep on laughing with the Shaykh because I would keep on making jokes about and trying to get the Shaykh to laugh.
Yeah.
There's one time we had there was a big giant teddy bear, right?
Right.
That was in the living room of the Shaykh, and we were sitting down, and I end up walking into the room. I take off my baseball cap, I put it on the teddy bear's head, and I put my sunglasses on the teddy bear's eyes, and go and sit down. And this guy just starts cracking up and can't contain his laughter the
I
whole
can
time.
never contain
Because
my laughter.
the Sheikh's not seeing the teddy bear with with sunglasses and the hat on,
Yeah.
and he's just cracking up seeing this big giant teddy bear wearing my wearing my outfit.
Yes, but yeah, I remember one time you had me laughing hysterically a few times. As what Shaykh Amir kept
Oh,
saying.
I got some stories for this trip. That's why I think we have to have a whole different round.
You know, but I'll leave this one. Like, it was something simple. Maybe some of you guys won't find it funny, but I'll tell you what. I will hang up right there. Somebody's calling and screwing up your our signal. Okay. Anyway, so like Dr. Shad. So we were in our hotel room, and I'm telling them about. So one of my friends Salman was on our earlier shows, like probably our first year, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you know, Salman was telling me this, and Sim was like, oh, Salman al-Farsi? And I was like,
He does that. Every time he hears a name, he just throws a different name that he knows.
Yeah.
And it just makes everything awkward. in the room. And everyone feels awkward except for Sim. He just
Here's
smiles.
what happens. Okay? These guys are thinking I'm making a joke, but I have really bad ADD.
Don't blame it on the ADD,
I
Sim.
end up like catching halfway into their conversation.
No,
and,
no.
like,
If
I'm
that's
like,
the
"Oh,
case, if
we're
that's the
talking
case, when you hear why were you like when he's talking about Salman, you're just like Salman al-Farsi, and you start looking around with your eyes.
No,
open.
because I thought there was like a story about Salman al-Farsi happening, and I missed out because I love that Sahabi. I don't
Of
understand
course,
what's
we
wrong
all
with
do.
this
We
shit.
all do.
okay, anyways, we're gonna wrap it up. We have to pray Maghrib.
No,
Anything
we don't
else?
want to wrap it up.
We gotta wrap it
This
up.
looks fun.
It
There's
is
a lot
fun.
There's a lot of people
Facebook,
hopping
welcome
on.
to the world of Facebook Live, son.
Now we gotta do is like give us a thumbs up or thumbs down if you want to see more of this.
All right.
It made another medium for us to like. We kind of slacked off. We didn't put out shows for like 3 weeks. Sim got really busy at work, to be honest.
Yeah.
He was working like 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would teach me how to edit and whatever, how to record, but that would just be a disaster.
I did like learn how to edit a little bit like 2 years ago, but I forgot.
Yeah.
So we'll try to do some YouTube stuff, more mediums, more stuff.
Guys who are just jumping on, all the juicy stuff you probably missed it. We're wrapping up now, so you might want to.
We'll publish it.
Yeah, you might want to rewind and watch it from the beginning.
All right, sounds good. And then we have another recording that we gotta play Maghrib and then record with some other cats from down under. So
Yeah, thank you all for hopping on. Really appreciate it. We didn't give you any announcement or any heads up for this, but we really enjoy your company and hope next time you guys have a few more questions that you guys can contribute to the discussion. Maybe we'll set up a Skype line, you know, a line on Skype where you guys can just call and be part of these episodes, and you don't even have to give out your name. You can ask whatever
raunchy question you want.
whatever dirty, disgusting things are happening in your twisted minds.
I will leave for that one. These guys can.
Chef,
We'll bring Mort for that. Mort's in town next weekend, so
you don't want more on this.
all right. Yeah, definitely this show maybe will come out on podcast too. But like for now, Facebook Live, we'll try something out. Appreciate you guys staying with us. For my co-host Sim and Shaykh Amir, Saeed, this is Mahin signing off for the Mad Mamluks. Assalamu alaikum.
What's up?